Question, Lord Butt.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
The Government is determined to deliver better bus services. We are setting out an action plan allowing every community the opportunity to take back control of local bus services to deliver improvements for passengers and giving local leaders more control and flexibility over bus funding to deliver their local transport priorities for growth, for jobs and for housing. We will consider how best to support buses in the longer term as part of the forthcoming spending review.
I'm grateful to my noble friend for that answer, and he has a long experience in the bus industry. But may I ask him in particular whether he'll look at the problem of rural bus services, which on the whole don't get much visibility. There's a very good one in Cornwall that he may know, which buses go every half hour and with cheap fares. But how is he going to ensure that the whole country benefits from this? Will the funding be there? Will it be ring-fenced? And will the government actually encourage local authorities or force them to pick up his offer?
So the proposition for local authorities and communities throughout the country is to take advantage of the proposals that the government will table, and that will ensure that the solutions are right for the areas for each area. My noble friend will know that the bus service in Cornwall is particularly well organised. It isn't franchised, but it is subject to a large degree of local authority control. And in fact, the consistency of information, of ticketing, of fares and of service standards is an important feature wherever buses operate in this country.
My Lords, the Minister, on whom I congratulate to his coming to his new position, will he pay tribute to rural bus services such as those in North Yorkshire? And will he ensure that if the bus arrangements transfer back to the local authorities, that the funds will follow the responsibility, in particular for concessionary bus fares, which are so important for older people in rural areas?
I thank the noble Baroness for her compliment. I hope the House will see it repaid in what I do. The concessionary bus fare funding will follow the control of bus services without any doubt, and that will be as important in North Yorkshire as it will be everywhere else in the country.
My Lords, the noble Lord the Minister will be fully aware from his extensive experience of how much young people in London benefit from free bus travel, and unfortunately in the rest of the country the picture is very different. It is very patchy and uneven. Now, does the noble Lord the Minister agree that there is a strong argument for a standard system of highly reduced or free bus fares for young people across the country to help them into jobs, apprenticeships and education, to create a fairer society and to create a new generation of bus travellers?
The noble Baroness will recognise the important ability of the Mayor of London to fund cheap fares and free fares for young people. The opportunity that the government's proposals for franchising will give is that other local authority leaders and combined authority mayors will also have that ability to fund fare concessions for the purposes that she mentions.
My Lords, the noble Lord the Minister is right to emphasise the importance of bus services. I would say particularly for the elderly. I speak as somebody who has reached pension age myself. And in that light, and given the government's, shall we say, cavalier attitude to pensioners that we've seen on display? Can he give an unshakable commitment that the government is going to maintain the national bus pass and also the statutory freedom pass scheme in London? Or is there the possibility that they too could find themselves subject to means testing?
I share the noble Lord's enthusiasm for the Freedom Pass scheme at my age. He's attempting to put me in the invidious position of a concrete commitment for all time. The Freedom Pass and the local authority and the national scheme for free travel for pensioners has lasted a very long time, and I think we would all hope that it continues into the future. The government is not in a good position with the state of the public finances that it's been left with, but we will bear his enthusiasm and that the enthusiasm of many other people for free travel for elderly people on buses in mind as we move forward with our commitments for the bus service.
My Lords, in addition to the work that my noble friend is doing with buses, we're soon going to hear about the Great British Railways changes, with the ministers taking much greater control of the railways. Does this not provide an opportunity for some proper timetabling so that when a bus arrives at a station, there's a train soon ready to go rather than one that's just left, which happens in so many parts of the country at the moment?
I thank my noble friend for that question. It's a subject which has engaged both the bus and the railway industries for generations. I think, in fact, it's more likely that the bus will have to alter its timetable to suit the railway because the railway is a national integrated system. But he is right in suggesting that the opportunity arises as a consequence of the proposals for Great British Railways and as a consequence of the proposals for the government's proposals for buses for a more integrated service of public transport across the entire country. The government will do its best to make sure that those opportunities are built upon.
My Lords.
And I are concerned about the amount of pollution which particularly diesel buses present to us. We used to have trams, we used to have vehicles that were run on electricity. Can my noble friend, can the noble minister confirm to us what the government is doing to encourage better environmental standards in buses and other means of public transport?
The programme to reduce emissions from the bus fleet has been carried out by successive governments over many years. There's no doubt at all that government intervention has created both cleaner diesel buses to a standard now of Euro 6 and also an increasing fleet of electric buses, which are the modern equivalent of tram cars. This government would hope to continue that, subject to funding, because it's clearly a very important contribution to air quality both in urban and other areas.
My Lords, My Lords, while we're talking about support for buses, I think we ought to be also talking about support for bus safety. If I may quote the BBC website this morning, at present there is no independent investigator and no independent recommendations when it comes to bus collisions. The families want to know why there's one policy for trains and another for buses. Perhaps the noble Lord the Minister could comment on that.
So it's clearly a critical point that the bus services and buses should be safe. Of course, the DVSA, which is an agency of the Department of Transport, does look at serious bus accidents and is able to both deal with the drivers, with the operators of those vehicles, and also take into account whether standards should be changed for bus design.
My Lords, for many of those dependent on buses, whether they're travelling to work or to hospital appointments, lateness can have a real impact. Can he say what actions he will be taking to improve real-time tracking of buses? So
the technology for real-time tracking has changed enormously in 20 years. One of the opportunities for franchising, which is part of the government's programme for bus services, is to provide consistent information and consistent real-time information. It is important. It's quite clear that where that information is provided, which isn't limited to signs on bus stops but can also be accessed on mobile phones and at home, then patronage increases. So we have every enthusiasm for increasing that, and the proposals on bus franchising will enable it to be more easily supplied where bus franchising takes place.
My Lord, that concludes oral questions for today.